to Platform People, a show where platform and DevOps practitioners can share and discuss their ideas beyond the marketing-driven hypes. I am Jorge Fiesta, author of the Linux Foundation Introduction to Backstage course, head of developer relations at Rodi.io, and certified sommelier. And as some of you know, I am based in Barcelona, but today I am in Guatemala, my home country. A country best known for Mayan ruins, excellent rum, extraordinary coffee, but also it has a great technology scene. Right now we're sitting at Star Trek's office, right in the middle of the tech epicenter of the country, where billions of US dollars have spawned over the past 2 decades. And here with me is Josemar Cordero, Senior Lead Platform Engineer at CDO.ai, Certified Kubernetes Administrator, and Ciencive Communities Organizer. Welcome, Josemar.
Hey everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. And something that you didn't mention is that I'm also a radio presenter on a radio online which is called Voces Guatemala, and an amateur stand-up comedian, and Paladin 99. No, I'm kidding though, I'm not such a thing. I'm just a troll playing games, and that's a reality. But still, thank you for inviting me over here.
Thank you for being here. Josemar and I actually worked together at PayPal. It's been a while, isn't it?
Yeah, quite a while. Actually, I have been wondering, what about being a front-end specialist and now you're all the places regarding developer experience? What happened there?
Well, it's been 6 years.
That's the first thing, yeah.
But yes, I started as a front-end engineer, but ever since I started a master in digital communication in Denmark, and I wrote my thesis at UCLA. And then I realized that I liked a lot communication and just relationships and the other elements of technology that can make a project succeed or fail. And that's how I ended up getting into developer experience, because it's a relatively new field that is basically exploring how teams can succeed. So that's why I got invested into it, and then one thing led to another, and now I'm here.
That's awesome. I didn't realize all of that track that you have over there.
And for you, you've been through enterprise, you've been through consultancies, and now you are a startup. And all throughout that road, you've had DevOps related roles. How has your understanding of DevOps evolved through these years?
Okay, before addressing that answer, I need to do something. I need to throw a hot take warning over there, because I'm that kind of person that get involved in those arguments. So, first of all, I believe that DevOps suffers from the get-go about being misunderstanding. It's just like MOQ, something like that. So nobody really got what is the idea behind DevOps. What is the idea of having a cultural shift, and somehow all the companies started to just creating titles, job titles around that buzzword, and they try to do something, but misses the real point of uh, elevating all the constraints that they have whenever a developer tries to deliver software, and making everything easier so the developer just do their thing and deliver. I believe that that was the main thing about DevOps culture, and somehow we still got it through the years up to the point that we now get into the platform engineering stuff, which uh, depending on your take, it could be a buzzword or just a byproduct of all the mindset that we had in the past. What I'm trying to say is that if in the past we tried to elevate all the constraints and just make everything easier for the developers, now it makes total sense that we are looking for people that knows to work with that, all of that instrumentation and automation that we were doing in the past as DevOps. So now we're shifting to this, to someone that truly knows about all the tooling around them and just focus on delivered software.
Okay, interesting. That's a great take, because I've seen a lot of debates uh, trying to clear the divide between DevOps and platform. But what you say, it's like an evolutionary concept, and I think that's a really interesting take. Maybe it's not a hot, I don't know. But I think it's a good one. Uh, throughout this time, you have probably been confronted with the classic dilemma: should we buy or should we build? And with the added complexity, or should we adopt open source? How does that work when you're building a platform?
The answer is going to be always it depends because you don't have a silver bullet for everything. And I have three different scenarios that I can elaborate on an example regarding adopting or building from scratch. So first thing I want to make clear is that you can either adopt, uh, build from scratch, or something in the middle, which is adopt and adapt. So let me elaborate on that through the scenarios. So first, all of these scenarios are real. Maybe it's a friend of a friend or an experience I have passed through, but I'm going to have everything in secrecy regarding names, so be with me. So the first example is a while ago I talked with yearly startup founder that he was asking me, hey, I'm already on this other cloud provider. My solution is already just running in Docker Compose, which is quite simple. It already told me that they don't have too many things around it. And they want to migrate into AWS because credits. And that person was asking me, should I be using Kubernetes? It's like, hell no, you shouldn't be using Kubernetes. If you can spin up everything just through Docker Compose, it means that you don't have that many complexity to adopt something new. So my suggestion to that person in that moment was, you should either try something like GCP Cloud Run or AWS ECS with Fargate. I throw a mambo jumbo over there, but TLDR. Those services are an abstraction for containers, making the infrastructure more simple. And I hope that founder took the advice at that moment because they weren't that complex. And so it was more easier to just adopt blindly whatever that it throws at you. Um, the other scenario I have is the right in the middle, which is adopt and adapt. I also had the opportunity to talk to another startup, which is currently in round C. So they have over the 100, yeah, over the 100 people, engineers over there. And at the beginning, they were all right with their solutions, but then they started growing so fast. And every single different developer team started to ask for infrastructure. So their solution in that moment was, you know what, we are going to create a team for infrastructure. And they label it DevOps team. I don't like it, sorry. But this team just so easily became the bottleneck over there because you have people that doesn't understand the cloud and then you have a small team that translated the cloud for you and you easily become the problem over there because you are going to be the bottleneck sooner or later. The solution I discussed with them, and I don't want to just talk about backstage all the day, but actually it was backstage. I told them, you should try backstage. You should first document all your processes that you have, look for the opportunities that you can automate, and translate that as a plugin within backstage. So instead of becoming the bottleneck for the developers, you just empower the developer to do the stuff that you already had automated, and they self-start then through the portal, and you're not anymore the bottleneck over there. So my point there is that they are not able to just adopt blindly something, but instead they could adopt something and adapt it to their use case, which is backstage and with the automation of plugins, and that's cool. And the last scenario, it's built from scratch. That's something back many years back. I was working at a company. I already had thrown a suggestion over there. I was working at a company that had that awful delivery process that they only push a single application once per month or once or twice per month. So at the moment they have a way of doing things. So I was in the team that had the challenge to redefine that and build something. And at that moment, Docker was a thing, but Kubernetes wasn't that popular. So the boss of my boss said, hell no, we're not going to try the Kubernetes thing. You have to figure out what to do. So we came with a solution. We branded it internally. We created that from scratch, and it worked. Uh, we shift from having something in weeks to something in hours. It was great. Everybody loved us because of that. But but I already told you it happened years ago, and I already have discussed with the people over there once again weeks ago. And what about this orchestration system that we built? Oh yeah, we are still using it, and we cannot migrate into Kubernetes. So what happened there is that even though we find a way to disrupt the way that we were working over there, we still created a vendor locking within itself. So right now the system is there, it just works, but because of all the knowledge that it requires, it blocks everybody to be into the Kubernetes party. So the thing I want to say about building from scratch, it's okay, you can do it, but you have to be aware that you have to maintain it, and there's a cost uh, over there, and also it's a danger because you could be doing something by yourself instead of just maybe trying something else in the outside, and maybe it could be better. But I don't know. Those are the three scenarios.
Wow, excellent, excellent insight. And maybe following up on that, when you mentioned the first two stages, like you have the small startup, and then you have like the startup that's growing really fast. Sometimes the transition can be really fast, as you may experience, because maybe that's the reason why founders are trying to say, hey, let's jump into Kubernetes because we don't know if we're going to be ready to scale when we raise the next round. And that might be the concern in their minds, even though it's going to be really painful to get Kubernetes at such a small scale. Maybe it's some way of preparing for a possible tech debt. How do you see that kind of provision?
That's a tough question, actually. I'm thinking through it because you cannot decipher this feature. You can only tell what do you want to marry with and just be together for the rest of your life. So maybe you can jump into Kubernetes because you want to be the future, but hey, everybody outside want to kill Kubernetes. I don't know why. I love Kubernetes, but people outside want to kill Kubernetes already. So I believe that Kubernetes, in a moment, like in 10 years from now, is going to be the new legacy, and something else is going to be the future. Do you want to be that ahead of the future? I don't know. Maybe a CTO out there is thinking about maybe we should use WebAssembly, for example, which is the next new thing, and maybe we are going to use it in 5 years now, but you shouldn't pay that much for the WebAssembly right now. You could just lead with the cloud provider, whatever they offer, or Kubernetes, that's alright, or just jump the gun and try to beat the future, but it doesn't work that way. So
Right.
there's no win situation there. Oh, there. Sorry.
No, that's great insight. I like that you bring this up because usually it's kind of in some circles it's kind of taboo to say that you shouldn't go with Kubernetes. It's great that you could just talk about it. Yeah, and regarding the last scenario of the corporation, it's just a topic that has happened to many companies, I assume. And the one story that I do know it's happened to Spotify. They talked about this publicly and how they had built similarly to you something like Kubernetes. But then when Kubernetes became popular, they decided to completely redo it, and it was a very expensive decision. But now they finally are all running on Kubernetes very happily, and they also created Backstage, as you may know, because and they open sourced it because they didn't want to have the same experience that they had before of being locked in on their own. So their strategy was to open source their own vendor lock-in, so it would not happen to them again with this Kubernetes situation. So yeah, it's interesting. Do you have any suggestion or anything that you have seen that works?
Yeah, actually, if the people I'm talking about, the last situation, is looking at me right now, looking at my face, I'm looking at you, please go ahead and just disrupt a little. It is going to hurt. It is going to hurt a lot. But if you disrupt the current contract that you have with that other vendor login, you could just jump into Kubernetes. if you can plan around, hey, we are going to create this disruption. We are wrapping these contracts that we have signed with the developers, uh, but after this certain amount of time, we manage through, we're going to be finally in Kubernetes. So TLDR, what I'm trying to say is that if you are in that situation, you build your own vendor lock-in, just jump the gun and try, no, jump the gun now, just bite the bullet and try to build yourself out of that vendor lock-in. That's the thing. Otherwise, you're going to continue paying the burden of maintaining that vendor lock-in for yourself and being stuck with the thing that we wrote many years ago.
Right. That's great. And it's interesting to me that it kind of ties as well with your career, how you explain this, because it's the evolution that you have seen on DevOps is kind of the evolution also that happens at industry levels and on how people are understanding their platform or their practices and how they can become agile. So yeah, I think that it's been great.
Yeah, I wanted to throw something that you have mentioned it. Why I'm so concerned about the DevOps thing situation right now is because I believe that as long as you know what are the core concepts of what you want to do, you can do it. And that's why I have this book over here, which is right now it's a comic book, but you can buy the big man version of it, which is with written words and not everything else, which is called The Goal. And it was written in the 90s, back in the 90s, and talk about what is the real thing, what is the most important thing that you must do to block your company. And you have to think around what are the constraints that the company have, and you beat those constraints so you elevate the throughput of that company per se. And that is applicable in everything. And then you get into DevOps, platform engineering, so on and so forth. I don't care about how are you going to call it next time, but if you keep your mind in the goal, you're going.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today with me. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to mention?
Just bite the bullet, man.
All right, thank you guys, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Oh, and by the way, if you are attending KubeCon in Amsterdam in April, don't forget to check out my talk. I'll be giving a talk on Friday at 11, yeah. And if you're just around and want to be featured in the show as Josemar, just let me know and we'll arrange something that we can have a nice talk. Have a great day, guys.